Hi everybody, and welcome to our online webinar session. We're here to talk about COVID-19 as an accelerator for change in guest experience. My name is Kelly Herrick and I'm the Strategy and Development Director at Katapult, and more on that later. We've chosen some great experts to talk to you today from themed attractions and leisure destinations. And the reason why we're here and we're talking with those people in mind is because we feel that theme parks and leisure destinations are really leading the way at the moment with the reopening worldwide. We also think that there's a great deal of learning there to share with people who might be in the cultural heritage, museum, gallery, festival space as well. So hopefully we give you lots of inspiration and insight. It's interesting actually how much leisure and destinations have changed or had to change really in the last few months, probably more so than we've seen change in the last 10 years, right? And I know that's the same for every industry around the world. And just to give you a few headlines on some stats here. Good morning, everyone who's checking in, by the way. Lovely to see you popping up in the chat. You're very welcome to use that to ask questions or make comments too, and I'll try and keep a little check on that. So these stats then, this is from Morning Consult, an American research company. 78% of US parents do not feel comfortable visiting theme parks in 2020. 45% would be more willing to visit a theme park, or let's say a leisure attraction, if attendance was capped. So if there was a level of security there, I guess, in crowd control. But 42% of those people still say they don't feel interested in visiting a leisure destination in the next 12 months. So that feels quite negative and quite cautious. But then we've also just seen in the industry, Disney and Universal, up to capacity on Labor Day in their theme parks, and that might be reduced capacity, but they are up to capacity. So there's two sides to this. There's a buoyant, more optimistic outlook, and there's perhaps a more cautious outlook. So on our panel, we are joined by three brilliant people who are going to give us loads of insight. We have Adam Goymore. He is the park manager and company director of Roar. And Roar is a dinosaur adventure park on the Norfolk coast in the UK, a great family park. And he's been in the industry for over 17 years. We've got Carly Strawn as well. Hi, Carly. She's joining us from Q-Line Consulting, and Carly basically takes tech and operations strategy and helps people make operations work in leisure and tourist destinations. So that's a really great piece of expertise we've got there. And then our third expert is Phil. He's a colleague with me. Phil is our Chief Creative Officer and co-founder here at Katapult, and we design themed attractions and experiences, including heritage, culture, museums too. And Phil is all about our creative vision, our innovation strategies, and our strategic partnerships. So that's who we all are. So let's kick off then. Adam, considering you're an operator and you're kind of on the front line, what changes have you put into place at your attraction based on social distancing guidelines, and what kind of feedback and reception are you getting from guests and staff?
So what changes have we made? A fair amount. You could say we're continually adapting and changing every day, it seems, to be honest, just to keep perfecting it, keeping it right. Obviously, as time has gone on since we were able to reopen on July the 4th, we had further things we could open. So initially, we had the bare bones of the park open, which excluded our indoor play area. It excluded our Herrick attraction, restaurants as well. So we had a number of things to adapt. So initially, before we opened, I did a full scout of the park, taking into account all of the relevant information that I could obtain through BALPA. So as everyone knows, or most will know, the British Association of Leisure Peers, Parks and Attractions. So took whatever I could from that at the time, using our own knowledge and experience to then navigate how a guest would need to experience the park. So things we put in place were a number of different measures. So social distancing, which we did via the way of dinosaur footprints. So we did that at the admissions area. And as you said, you can look at things two ways, positively or negatively. And always on the attraction side, you need to look at it as an experience and something new to experience. So by using dinosaur footprints, which is one of the ways, we done that at the admissions area, the food and beverage outlets, or wherever was necessary, where we had people queuing that we couldn't otherwise avoid. So that was one way. We did one-way systems as well, where obviously they are key areas that people want to visit, other attractions. So we had to get people to book their time slots as well. So as well as the admissions, which most attractions have done in terms of, so many people in a half-hour slot, and making sure they're all socially distanced whilst they're queuing to pay what they've already paid, because everything was done online. One-way systems, as I've said before, was another key one. But also other ways to kind of interact with the customers. We've done lots of video content. You said before about, the 70-odd% in the US, and then there was another percentage you gave. Well, it was our job to then reassure people that when they came to us, they could be in a safe environment. So we're luckily in the Norfolk countryside, but we're within an hour and a half's drive time of Essex, which has a large, population. And believe it or not, we saw 55% of users on our website who were new and from London. So that told us a lot about where people were coming from to see us. So there's a few things. I think that captures a fair amount of your question, but if there's anything else, I'll add in on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was great to hear about the dinosaur footprints. We all loved when we saw that, and it was just really nice because it was in keeping very much with the narrative around your park. How have guests reacted, and how have staff reacted to the new measures? Has it been overall positive? Have people been patient?
Yeah, I mean, if we go with crew feedback, as I like to call them rather than staff, people call them different things, but call them crew. Yeah, I think obviously there's initial reservations about it all, obviously, which is totally understandable. And as I asked my head of HR, actually, who I worked with very closely, to give me some notes, actually, in readiness for today to talk about that. But first of all, we did a questionnaire out to all of the crew to say, look, this is what measures we've put in place. How are you feeling about this? What questions may you have? These are the procedures that we're going to put in place. This is how we're going to look after you. And one of the first things I did with the managers when they came back is I took them around the park, which I probably by that point had been around about 25 times, getting my fitness up during the lockdown period to make sure it was right. And then I went through the relevant areas with them to say, look, now what do you guys think? What feedback have you got for me on what you think might work better? So went through that with them. And yeah, once we got the questionnaires back from individual team members, then we looked at adjusting it where we needed to, or if not at all. But I think, just trying to remember back to the questionnaires, over 90% of our crew were willing to come back. They were happy with the measures that we put in. And we just kept constant communication with them all the time. Same thing for visitors. It was just keeping them updated, being more active on social media and doing more video content as well. So this is what you can now experience, which is also good for those with inclusive needs, because they like to see a video of the park, so they know what to expect. So nothing shocks or frightens them. So that was also something else we've done for visitors that was really good.
Great. So the communication is obviously a really important part of that, which is a great learning from that, as well as doing things, telling people and asking people what they'd like, telling people what you're going to do, and then telling people what you've done, basically. Yeah. Carly, from your point of view, what do you think has been the role of tech and ticketing and operational systems that you've seen from your clients sort of now, and what do you expect in the next 6 to 12 months?
So it's been an interesting few months, shall we say, for tech, and especially for ticketing. I think a lot of people who have lived up until this point thinking, oh, we don't really need an amazing web store. We don't need a really good ticket purchase process. We'll survive. People walk up, you know, they pay cash or they pay card on the door, and we're just living with it. I don't think it's possible for you just to be living with it anymore. The introduction of capacity management was a huge thing. I've been banging on for years about it to people because I do think it's a real improvement in guest experience to capacity manage your attraction anyway. It makes your attraction easier to manage, mainly. And I remember having a conversation years ago with Warner Brothers down in London, Leavesden, about the fact that you can only visit them if you book in advance. They have a capacity, they're sold out approximately 3 months in advance at any one point. And everybody being really shocked by that and saying, oh, you know, it's not possible, it's not going to happen, you won't get any visitors. Actually, you know, it's been a long time and they're still booked out pretty well. And actually that enables them to manage that really closely. So they know how many people are coming, they know how many staff they need to service that capacity. They can reduce that capacity if they have something else going on. Very easy for them to manage things like time slots. And actually what it produces is a really good guest experience, is that you really don't queue for anything. When you arrive, they're ready for you. They know how many people they're expecting, and actually it's pretty seamless. So even on their busiest days, you really don't feel like you're sort of waiting behind people, which is really nice. And I think that will hopefully be a big improvement for people, is that if they do start to capacity manage more, they can start to manage their business better. They can start to, you know, preempt when they're busy, when they're not so busy, and actually react to that. So, you know, if you're seeing that, okay, most of us have a peak and off-peak period, but actually, could you flatten that a bit better? Could you get people coming in earlier or later to your attraction? If you change your pricing, if you're a bit cleverer about, you know, this could be, we can tell you when it's going to be busier. Because actually, if you tell somebody it's going to be really busy at this point in time, they might choose to come another time, even if it's the same price. And then there's some other things you can do around pricing, which allow you to really help that. So we ran an experiment and an attraction I used to run where we put 50 pence on a ticket at peak periods. 50 pence is nothing to most people. They wouldn't even think about it. But actually what it did was it flattened our day. So before 11 o'clock in the morning, we used to see nobody. And then between sort of 11 and 3, we'd be really busy. And after 3 o'clock, we'd see nobody. 50 pence doesn't sound like a lot, but it really helped us push those people into the shoulder periods. And actually, again, nicer experience for everyone. We didn't have huge queues. You know, we still had queues, but we managed to flatten that as much as possible. And, you know, for a very small amount of money, what you can do with that is make your off-peak periods more appealing to a market that maybe you can't service at the moment because you're too expensive. So you can, you know, you can start to reduce that price for increasing your volume and really play around with it. And I think, I'm hoping we won't see a lot of people going back, is that we've changed the way that we work. We've been forced to change the way that we work. And actually, I think people would be quite happy with the results. Yeah. You know, it's stressful, but you can do a lot to reduce that stress if you just have an idea as to who's coming. And I think there's been some successes. I think there's been some really quite horrible failures in the way that people have implemented that. Some, you know, I've heard from attractions where their cut-off date for booking is 7 days in advance. Well, you know, what if I want to come tomorrow? Why are you stopping me? And then, you know, not allowing people to cancel those tickets or move the days, and that becomes really difficult because then those people don't turn up. If you're a free attraction, that causes problems for your capacity, etc. So I think we're learning, we're getting there, but I think, yeah, I'm hoping that it could be seen as a bit of a positive, a bit of a push to get people, you know, tourism's always about 10 years behind where the rest of the market is for some bizarre reason, because actually the other stuff that we do, we're really good at being creative and we're really good at giving great experience. We're just a little behind on the tech that can support that. And so actually I'm kind of hoping it's given us a bit of a kick in the right direction. So
good. Yeah, I hope so. I think there's quite a few things you've said there around sort of seamless experience, reducing stress, but keeping commercial reasoning behind all of that as well. So that's really great. And Phil, from your point of view, I mean, obviously we're here as designers and conceptors for themed experiences. How do you think experiences are changing between getting caught between operations that are trying to reopen now, and also people that are trying to create for the future, for things that might be opening in the new norm of like 12, 24 months time?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, the challenge we're kind of going through at the moment with clients and projects, and it's hard to kind of with the unforeseen future. We don't know what's on the corner, but what we're trying to do is plan and create adaptive design to be able to cover whatever circumstance might may be. So, for example, in response to the current COVID situation, we've created a dining experience within Derby City Centre. And that was to support local restaurants, cafes and eateries to create a revenue stream for them when they've got kind of reduced capacity internally. And to try and kind of give people ultimately a safe environment to drive experience, to drive people out back into a kind of safe environment that they can socialise in safely. So that's one thing that we've done in response to the current situation. But we're also currently working on two kind of large global projects where they'll be launched kind of summer next year, peak summer, within parks, attractions, kind of globally. And the interesting thing is how we're having to kind of create the experience from a big vision perspective, but make it adaptive, because we don't know what restrictions will be in place here, globally, nationally, locally, and so we're having to create something that ultimately, from an experience perspective, works and can be adapted and changed in response to whatever their situation may be. And it's interesting because this is where we need to make sure that the experience doesn't suffer as part of this, and our business is creating experiences, immersive experiences, and world building, and creating an illusion to immerse people into a world and have an amazing day. Last thing we want to do is to immerse them into that and then pull them out to wash their hands, to sanitize their hands, and put them back in again, and pull them out to to skip 2 rows in a theme park car to go somewhere else. Suddenly you're breaking that illusion, and that kind of goes against everything we're doing. So obviously at the moment we're trying to design adaptively to make sure that it all feels part of that kind of that immersive experience. But then we're also working on something, we're about to start kicking off a themed resort project, which won't be open until sort of 22, 23. So it's understanding what considerations we need to put in place for those projects from a design perspective and a guest experience perspective, to ensure that they can adapt if they need to. And obviously at the moment we're hoping there'll be a vaccine and things will be a lot better by then. But from an investor's perspective, they're investing a lot of money and they want to ensure that they can kind of channel a way through any situation that might arise, like there is currently. So
yeah, it's very tempting, I guess, for many of the operators to be just trying to recoup that general income level, to keep their crew and their staff employed, to keep things ticking over, to recoup their position. But I think from our point of view, it's championing the guest experience as well. It's not just reopening and saying, here, we are what we were before, please come back. If people are going to be more selective and more cautious about how they either spend their money, their time, or their safety time, there's got to be some sort of draw there. And it's just interesting from all of your perspectives, what do you think is kind of the new elements to guest experience that will bring people back if they have a limited budget and a limited time to go out safely somewhere? Obviously, what do you think those big things or small things are that are going to draw the guests back in terms of their experience? What about you, Carly? What do you think on that?
So, I mean, it's an interesting question, because I think I've been doing some work on this anyway with a client around how actually do you, even before COVID, how do you get people to spend more money with you? How do you get people to come to your attraction? Where is your new market? Because we've all been looking for a market forever. You have your people who will automatically come. You have your annual pass holders, whatever it might be, your big supporters, and they will always come. There'll always be people banging on your door saying we want to support you, we want to come and have your attraction. If your attraction is strong enough, let's be clear. But I think what we saw leaning towards was kind of small group, really intimate, high cost experience, and how that affects people who may not normally come to your attraction. So for example, you know, things like the Tate Lates, Science Museum Lates, for example. I would never, you know, I don't have children. I would not go to the Science Museum in South Kensington on a Saturday afternoon if you paid me, quite honestly. It's a great attraction and I love its content, but it, you know, it's just chaos. I love it, but it's chaos. Yeah. And you know, it's not a relaxing afternoon out. But so if they're saying actually you can come and have a really intimate experience, I was going to say, you know, you could come and have a really intimate experience with a curator-led tour that's a very small group. Well, that's a really different prospect. And actually, that works with or without COVID. Actually, where can you put your real value so you're making more money over less people?
So those kind of high
it's been
ticket,
a little bit controversial.
Yeah, those high ticket, more personal things, which was a trend before, to be fair, as well. And
absolutely.
What do you think, Adam, in terms of that? What's your one sort of new norm guest experience that you think people are going to be drawn back to Raw Dinosaur Adventure Park?
Take myself off mute, that'll help. So yeah, one thing we've always been renowned for is quality. So we'll retain that, but we can't always afford to put in new attractions all the time. But luckily enough, because we'd already spent a certain amount on some new attractions, we incorporated that when we did reopen. So we reopened on the 4th of July, but we actually opened up the new attractions on the 22nd of July. So what we did there were 2 new experiences. So it was a real test and time to experience and try some new things. So I thought, what a prime opportunity, let's have a go. Let's see what we can do. So we did it with Dippy's Raceway. So we themed it, which people seem to love. And I think we've come from being a really localized local park. And I'm trying to get away from that and trying to strengthen the brand, because we rebranded the park, and get people to love what we're about, and people to explore and to immerse themselves in a dinosaur themed experience that they can't get elsewhere. So it's making them feel, you know, special. It's a special day out. Yeah, we're not the cheapest day out, but we're not the most expensive, certainly in the area, by probably about £5. So it's really strengthening on that quality, immersive experience, a dinosaur themed experience, because that's our main USP, and working with our own unique characters. So we've got Dippy, and then we've subtly put some other characters in, which we'll officially launch at a later date. And then we used our main character, Dippy, who is trademarked, to do a live show performance. So again, outside, again, expressing, you know, you're safe outside. There's lots of places to socially distance. We incorporated that as well. So that went down superb. That was our most
So it's about kind of building on what you were already building on, which is similar to what Carly was saying with some of the sort of VIP experiences. Phil, give me a minute or two of what you think your kind of new guest experience pull is going to be. What you think?
Well, I guess it depends when we're thinking. I mean, because currently, you know, I don't think it's enough to say, you know, we put measures in place and we're safe. It's, you know, to actually get people out of the houses, you know, out of their safety bubbles, you know, which we've all been living in. There needs to be a really kind of valid reason and a you know, something, a beneficial kind of reason to spend money and spend time to have that pull. And we found that with clients, you know, that they know that they need to invest, and it always, you know, it can't be the biggest show or the biggest coaster and things, but how do you create more theming, create more experience, create more events, more programming? And that's about, you know, knowing your audience, nurturing them, and you know, giving them a purpose and a reason to come and ultimately spend money with you. So
yeah, having that authentic, unique draw, isn't it? It's not just the case of reopening; it's reopening plus what is there going to be that pulls me in? So I think that's a really good mindset to have. It's kind of reopening plus. People are expecting the safety now. It's what's coming next. Right, so we're into our last 5 minutes, and what's really interesting, I think, is to take all of our joint expertise and try and help some of the people in this conference who may be more from the cultural, heritage, museum, gallery, art sectors. And let's go round and just give everybody maybe like a minute to give you what's your final takeaway for how your experience or your knowledge would help people in the sector that are on the call today. So what can museums, galleries, culture, heritage take away from this? Give us your thoughts, Adam. What do you think? You're on mute still. Sorry, we've been all doing this for the last 5 months, haven't we? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There we go. I'm off mute. Sorry.
The mime, the worldwide mime.
I think it's constantly you have to adapt and change all the time. So that's something you can never get away from. I think try new things as well and just see what other people are doing. Just because it's not, for your exact park or attraction, there's definitely some learnings. Get out to other parks, go and visit them, see what they're doing, how they're doing it online. I think we all have a gut feeling for what's probably right for our attraction, but I think making sure you spend time outside of your attraction is really, really key. I do it frequently. I'm doing it again next week, just to go and see how other people have got on and fared, and attending things like this as well are really good.
So get out into the world more.
Yep.
Get out into the world more. Fantastic. Carly, what are your quick final thoughts for people in the cultural heritage sector?
So I guess for me, I'm trying to be a bit hopeful about it because I feel like this past month has been a bit more of a hopeful month. So I think honestly, if your mission is strong enough, if what you are proposing is strong enough, there's always people to support you. There's always a community. There's always supporters. There's always visitors. There's always money. But actually, try and find them now and see what can you offer them online. What can you offer people who can't come through your door? So, not just servicing your local community or the tourists who maybe won't be coming this year from further afield, but actually, how do you find those communities and how do you service them? Because that's going to be where your supporters come from. So
reach out.
Now is the time to kind of hunker down and think, what do we deliver? Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of get out into the world, reach out to those people. And Phil, you've got a minute or two. What's your takeaway on it?
It's a tricky one in a few minutes. I think what Carly spoke about earlier on, I think about the forced hand of attractions having to do pre-ticket sales is really, really important, and it's something that we've been kind of pushing for a long time in terms of from an ops perspective, but also from a quality experience. I think it allows you to understand the whole guest experience and really kind of nurture that from before you get to the experience and afterwards as well. So I think that's hugely important. I also echo I think what you both said in terms of adapting, just being able to adapt and change, don't be fixed. Like I say, look what's around you, see what other people are doing, trial things. I think that's the best we can do at the moment.
Just keep swimming. Okay, fantastic. So I think there's been quite a lot there that we've taken away. I think there's a real sense of optimism and buoyancy from a few different people here on the call, on the webinar as well. So we've all put our email addresses in the chat. Carly, if you wouldn't mind putting your email address in the chat as well. And then if people would like to contact us to ask us specific questions in our area of expertise, you can do that. And I hope we've inspired you, and I hope you go away energized and ready for the opportunities that post-COVID is going to bring us as well, because there will be opportunity, and there are opportunities right now. So stay positive, get out into the world, connect to your people, and just keep swimming. So thank you for joining in, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And if there are any further comments, just let us know. So thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Well, bye.
Thank you. Cheers, Kelly. Thanks, everyone.